Chapter 1961 Courage. In the new Shrek City, Molan was startled upon seeing Tangwulin. Tangwulin, who was standing before her, had changed drastically as compared to a few days ago. If Tangwulin was described as handsome and graceful on the day of his marriage proposal, he now looked battered out of his senses. She met Tangwulin in his residence. His beard was untrimmed and he had a blank stare. She had never seen him in such a state before. Even when Shrek Academy was destroyed in the past, Tangwulin's eyes were still filled with determination. He had always been strong and resolute. His courage mounted as the battle progressed. He was always capable of turning the tide regardless of his opponents, and bravely led his comrades to victory. When he was confronted by a powerful opponent such as the Abyssal Sage King, despite being the underdog, he would exhaust all his abilities without any intention of cowering. He persisted until the end, where he destroyed and devoured the Abyssal Plane following Tang San's 10,000-year plan. Tangwulin was a hero who possessed all the outstanding qualities of a human in Molan's perception. He stood at the pinnacle of mankind's world. It would not be an exaggeration to describe Tangwulin as God. However, the person standing before her now was not the Tangwulin who had embraced hardships in the past, but a demoralized man who appeared to have lost his soul. What happened to his power? Molan could not help feeling grievous upon seeing him in his current state and thought about her past. Her family members had died in succession caused by the acts of the Holy Spirit cult. During that period, she recalled being in a worse state than Tangwulin now. She felt empathy for him. She did not make any comments as she walked forward and wrapped her arms around Tangwulin's head. She did not console nor blame him, but hugged his head silently, allowing him to lean on her as if she was trying to warm his heart with her body heat. Tangwulin had a bitter expression on his face. He muttered, "Sister Molan, do you know that in our discussion we agreed that the only way to neutralize the threat this time is to remove the powerhouses from being controlled? In order to do this, there's only one way." At this point, his body began to tremble ever so slightly. He was losing control of his emotions. "We must kill Douluo. This is the only way to awaken those people. It's also the only way to fight against the soul beasts." Molan's body shook once. She just realized why Tangwulin was in such a devastated form. Tangwulin said with a forced smile, "Is this how the god of destiny makes fools of the people? Actually, I would rather be a commoner given the choice. This is the first time in my life that I've ever had this thought of not wanting to be a soul master. If I'm just an ordinary person, I can marry a wife who bears me children and lead a happy life. I can be with the person I love. I just want to live a simple life every day. Even if there's a disaster, I'm willing to die with her. At least, I don't have to be in this situation where I'm so tormented." The Dragon Emperor Douluo seemed lifeless in the meantime. Molan did not speak but listened to his rant quietly. "I'm the son of the God King. I've the Golden Dragon King's bloodline, and I'm even a part of the Dragon God. I'm the Sea God's Pavilion Master of Shrek Academy and the Tang's Sect Master. My statuses make me unique and special. I've gradually worked my way to the peak of this world. Just when I thought there was nothing that could stop us from being together, the God of Destiny presented this to me. Actually, I figured out Yue's identity long ago, although I've been silent about it. I can feel that her love for me is genuine. When we were fighting against the Abyssal Sage King together, albeit the Abyssal Sage King was so powerful, do you know that my heart was filled with joy at the time? Moreover, I felt that we would surely win since our hearts were connected. Together, we were fighting against a formidable enemy. As expected, we won in the end. Everything was going smoothly and appeared perfect. However, there's no such thing in this world. Why do I feel the lack of this most important link in me? I just want to be with her. Yet, I can't take her on a elope even if I wanted to. Just like how I'm bearing heavy responsibilities. So is she. We love each other deeply, yet we're helpless." Molan tightened her hug on Tangwulin. Her eyes were gradually reddening. "Yes. This brother of hers suffered no less pain than she did." After much ranting, Tangwulin seemed more comfortable now. He struggled to free himself from Molan's arms. He sat upright and looked to the Douluo continent's top administrator sitting before him. "Sister, can you please tell me what I should do?" asked Tangwulin in bitterness. Molan looked at him with tears glistening in her eyes. "Wulin, it doesn't mean that being ordinary is great for sure. Have you been to the hospital before? There are countless people suffering from various illnesses. A large number are dead, separated from their loved ones. Everyone has their own painful experience in this world. Someone once said that humans are not born to enjoy but to suffer. We suffer at different times and in different situations. On the other hand, the biggest joy in life is to be safe and live peacefully. It is to live a dull, monotonous life. It's apparent that that's not for us. We've extraordinary talents, and we've lived through happier times in the past. Besides, we've something different from the others. It's a responsibility. The responsibility causes us pain. However, can we escape it?" At this point, Molan's gaze was glistening. "We can't run away from it. Everyone is attempting to run away from it, and some have succeeded. Nevertheless, even if we manage to avoid it, thousands and millions of people can't. They'll have to endure the agony. Back in those years when all my family members were killed, I wanted to end my life to join them. That way, I didn't need to endure the piercing pain every night when it was quiet, and everybody else was asleep. I've always thought that courage is the rarest virtue of mankind. It's also the hardest to attain. The courage of confronting an enemy is only one part of it, while the courage to confront oneself is the true courage. Actually, you're already doing very well. Even if you choose to run now, no one can blame you. It's because you've already done too much for this world. Today, I'm not here to persuade you to confront the situation with courage, but I'm here to take over your place. I'll always support your choice regardless. You've already done way too much. I'll face whatever comes next, be it a success or a failure, no matter what the future holds." Upon saying that, Molan stood up abruptly and raised her hand to caress Tangwulin's hair. The glistening tears in her eyes were gone, and in its place was a loving gaze. "If my son was still alive, perhaps he might have grown to about your height now." Her gaze turned unusually determined upon saying that. There was no pain nor sorrow. She turned around and walked to the outside. She did not possess any powerful abilities. In fact, she did not even have the slightest ounce of soul power. She was but an ordinary person. However, she appeared resolute and strong in Tangwulin's attentive gaze. It felt as if every step she took could shake the world. Molan had lived despite the extreme agony in the past, not because of how strong she was, but because there was a strong belief in herself. Chapter 1962 I'll still have to confront I. She was her father's daughter, her husband's wife, and her son's mother. How many women were there on the Douluo continent who shared the same identities as her? There were thousands and millions of them. She must take a stand in order to prevent more people from suffering the agony she endured. She must work hard so more people can live happily. When her family members passed away, the previous Molan had already died. Her current self was just a brave shell. It was a shell that had the courage to face anything and everything. "Sister." Tangwulin suddenly called out aloud. Molan stopped walking. She turned around to look at him. Tangwulin took a deep breath and made his way toward Molan one step at a time. He made his way till he was facing her. Suddenly, he opened his arms to give her a hug. Molan chuckled with tears rolling down her face. She could feel the warmth of the hug. "Sister, I'm your family. You're not alone in this world." Tangwulin's face was covered in tears as well. "Brother, since you can't run nor hide, we shall confront it with courage. We are fearless." In the new Shrek City, it was a bustling scene outside the city. "Over there." "That's right, put it over there. How is the adjustment of the reconnaissance device at location 1? Is it linked to the satellite released to us by the Federation? Is the Soul Artillery rocket formation at location 2 completed? What? You still need another hour? No way. I can only give you another 20 minutes at the most. If you don't complete it by then, just you wait and see." All right. Pay attention to the safety of the soul ammunition storage. No open fires are allowed in the nearby areas. No nonsense. Do I look stupid that I don't know open fires won't affect soul ammunition in general? This is just in case the ammunition is detonated. It's fine if you're dead, but what if the entire city's people are afflicted? Hey, are you a fool? Is this how you install the system module? You're going to waste another 5 minutes if you do this. What did I teach you? You useless imbecile. What will you do without me? The unruly voice was heard incessantly. It was even more surprising that whoever was reprimanded by her would perform better at their tasks in spite of being in a tense situation. Ling Zichen was dressed in sports attire. Her forehead was sweating profusely as she bustled about. She was on a small-sized soul hoverboard which she rode at a height of less than 10 meters. She had developed the product herself and it was yet to be mass-produced. It was the 4th day of Tangwulin and Yuna's agreed time frame. The first batch of army from the Central Army Corps had arrived in Shrek City with their supplies. Undoubtedly, the Soul Beast Legion would need to pass through Shrek City first if they wanted to occupy the plane. The defense system in Shrek City was already fully completed. The only saving grace was that all the Tang sect scientific researchers remained because their cultivation bases were either not high enough or they did not qualify to fuse with the 10,000-year spirit souls. Meanwhile, Ling Zichen led them to set up the defense on the front line and attack platforms as well. Before the war against the abyssal plane in Douluo, Ling Zichen was only famous within the Tang sect, but now, she was a heroine renowned throughout the entire continent. She was the inventor of the Eternal Heaven Cannon who had utilized her body for testing and almost died in the process. Soon after, she used herself as an ammunition to blast toward the abyssal passage without the slightest hesitation. It could be said that she died twice on the battlefield against the abyssal plane. How could people not know about her presence and her brave spirit? She was precisely the first person who began the comprehensive preparations when the Abyssal Legion appeared. In fact, Ling Zichen became the temporary supreme commander of Shrek City when Tangwulin was in dejection for the past few days. The military officers from the Central Army Corps were willing to submit to her order after witnessing her ferocious performance in Douluo. They were fighting side by side with her at the time. Fortunately, with her resurrection at the end, Ling Zichen's self-sacrifice ensured that more of them could live. Ling Zichen was done managing most of the affairs with great effort. She raised her head and looked toward the sky in the distance. She gazed at the fuzzy nine-colored halo in the sky and cursed aloud. What the FCK is that? Why does Wulin like this kind of person? Humph. Had I not lost the Eternal Heaven, I'd have blasted you to death with my cannon. Then, the BSD road Tangwulin will be mine. Humph. Just wait for your death. I'm using my trump card this time. I don't believe that I can't do it. A handkerchief suddenly appeared on Ling Zichen's forehead. It startled her. She wanted to dodge it subconsciously, but she soon realized that the handkerchief was wiping away the sweat on her forehead. Who has the audacity to touch me? You must be trying to seek doom, right? Ling Zichen was infuriated. I'm that BSD road whom you cursed. A helpless voice was heard. Only then did Ling Zichen notice the person next to her was precisely Tangwulin. At present, Tangwulin was in Shrek Academy's uniform. The uniform was green and filled with vitality. What are you doing? Trying to console me? Asked Ling Zichen in an unpleasant tone. Tangwulin smiled. I'd like to know the trump card which you were referring to earlier. Ling Zichen rolled her eyes at him. Why should I tell you? I won't. What can you do then? Tangwulin heaved a sigh helplessly. Zichen, thank you. Ling Zichen was down for a moment. She did not expect Tangwulin to react in such a manner. Don't try to bullshit. There's no need to try to please me. As she spoke, she turned her head away. Tangwulin chuckled. Please continue with your tasks. I'm leaving. Bye. Hey. Ling Zichen suddenly called out to him. What is it? Asked Tangwulin. Ling Zichen said, are you okay? Her utterance sounded gentler at last. Tangwulin nodded with a smile. I still have to confront it, don't I? Not only for myself but to ensure that thousands or even millions of ordinary people can survive. As he spoke, he waved at Ling Zichen. He then left. Ling Zichen gazed after his departing silhouette and recalled the words uttered by him. There were complicated emotions in her gaze which were a combination of heartache, rage, pity, and recalcitrance. Most of all, there was jealousy. The Spirit Pagoda was up against Shrek Academy once again. Perhaps, these two great organizations were enemies by nature. It began in the Kyanki clan's era when the Spirit Pagoda colluded with the Holy Spirit cult to destroy Shrek Academy until now, when the Silver Dragon Princess Yuna revealed she was the Silver Dragon King, the god of the Soul Beasts. She had seized control of the Soul Masters and led the Soul Beasts to seek revenge on mankind. The first people to bear the brunt were those from Shrek. The great catastrophe in the past was still fresh in the minds of the people today. There were thousands of injuries and fatalities. It was to be the greatest calamity that befell the Douluo continent. There were the Holy Spirit cult, the Abyssal Plane, and now the 10,000 Beast platform which were not only hurting the living souls on the continent but mankind's hearts as well. The continent was in chaos. Most of the information could not be concealed from the public. They could only rely on the military system to maintain the order now. As the newly appointed speaker, Molan used her own influence to gain the public's confidence. She made her way to the front lines by coming to the new Shrek City immediately. She told the public that the Soul Beast Legion would need to step over her dead body first in order to invade the continent. Molan even had a truthful discussion on the relationship between mankind's soul masters and the soul beasts. She acknowledged the fact that today's consequences were a result of mankind's oppression of the soul beasts. It was a countercharge involving issues of ecological balance. The god King Tang San, the lord of the plain Tang Hao, and the life god Yin had solved the issue of life force for the entire Douluo star. But the near extinction of the soul beasts was yet to be resolved all this while. Chapter 1963 5 days is up. Who would have thought that the soul beasts which were nearly extinct would suddenly wage a countercharge? It would be a crushing blow to mankind without a doubt. It struck mankind's soft spot. 10,000 years ago, the holy ice Douluo Hua attempted to solve this issue when he founded the Spirit Pagoda. His effort was approved by the beast god Ditin at the time. However, with the passage of time, the Spirit Pagoda began to deviate and develop in a different direction. At the same time, the inequality of powers between mankind and the soul beasts grew. Subsequently, mankind's greed and lust drove them to oppress the soul beasts even further. By then, the soul beasts were incapable of resisting. The end result was undoubtedly against the Holy Spirit Douluo's wishes. Nonetheless, the mistake had already been made. They would have to face the consequences of their actions. Molan told the people that they would need to bear the consequences courageously and to confront it directly. In any case, mankind would not be defeated easily. Once again, she calmed the hearts of the people. At the very least, there would not be a large-scale riot before the onset of the catastrophe caused by the soul beasts. However, everything would depend on the outcome after the expiration of the 5-day period. Far away, the 9-colored light cloud in the sky turned bright while a large number of the soul beasts, silhouettes descended from the sky. The flying soul beasts, which carried the land soul beasts, landed on the plains in an orderly manner. Their battle formation was organized along the different clans, just like mankind's legion. A number of 10,000-year soul beasts with powerful abilities were hovering in the air, emitting a ferocious overbearingness. It had been a long time since so many soul beasts appeared on the Douluo continent. In fact, the soul masters were even astonished by the appearances of the soul beasts. The last beast tide took place over 10,000 years ago. Currently, the number of soul beasts amounted to over 1 million. The numbers were definitely higher now than 10,000 years ago. It was not just the people on the Douluo continent who needed to thank the abyssal plane, but the soul beasts living in the 10,000 beast platform too. It was impossible for so many powerful soul beasts to be born in such a short time by relying on just the dragon god core and the 10,000 beast platform. Ming and Ming were the foundation for the 10,000 beast platform, while the dragon god core was its soul. The multiplier effect was due to the dragon core's replenishment of the life force. The large amount of life force from the abyssal plane paved the way for the 10,000 beast platform to achieve its scale today. However, the thousands of soul beasts did not terrify mankind. The soul beasts did not possess the resurrection ability of the abyssal creatures. Mankind's soul technology was capable of resisting such large numbers of soul beasts. In fact, mankind stood a fighting chance. Nevertheless, the soul technology was lethal to the thousands of soul masters amongst the soul beasts as well. This made it extremely difficult to only target the soul beasts. Besides, there were quite a number of powerful powerhouses amongst them, such as the numerous excellencies from the War God Hall, Shrek Academy, and the Tang sect. Moreover, the opposing team was commanded by the Silver Dragon Princess who killed the Spirit Monarch in the past. There were only 2 contenders who qualified for the most powerful position in the Douluo continent today. They were the Golden Dragon Moonsong Tangwulin and the Silver Dragon Dance Killing Yuna. They used to fight together against the Abyssal Sage King, and they both displayed true god-ranked abilities. No one knew who was the more powerful. Yet, judging by the situation during the joust for a spouse festival, the Silver Dragon Princess Yuna's ability surpassed the Dragon Emperor Douluo Tangwulin. On the other hand, the beasts were led by the beast god Ditin, the Azure Ox Python Deming, and the Titan Giant Ape Erming. They hovered in the air and gazed into the distance where Shrek Academy was located. Deming's and Erming's gazes were clouded with complicated emotions. Their relationship with mankind could be considered intimate, which was quite rare for the soul beasts. They were close companions and brothers of the sea god Tangsan in the past. However, they were still soul beasts. Just as Yuna discovered that the soul beasts were close to extinction when she woke up. Similarly, they felt depressed when they knew the soul beasts were about to be annihilated. They could only keep a few of the clan's heritage in the 10,000 beast platform. They used to live in the divine realm, so they were well aware of the soul beast's status in the divine realm. Soul beasts were completely banned in the divine realm. Even Dominion and Ming could only maintain their human forms in the divine realm. The soul beasts were not only treated poorly in the Douluo continent, they received the same treatment in the divine realm. Hence, they consented to work with the Silver Dragon King without much persuasion from Douluo when she came looking for them with the dragon god core in her hands. They were hoping for an uprising of the soul beasts in the Douluo continent. The opponent whom they were about to fight against was the son of their brother, the sea god Tangsan. They had witnessed the growth of Tangwulin ever since he was a boy. Just as Yuna said, she was not destined to be with Tangwulin due to her identity as the Silver Dragon King. They represented two different, opposing clans. The love between them was destined to be a tragedy. The misfortune dawned on Tangwulin 5 days ago. How many tormented years did Yuna suffer through? She fell in love with him despite knowing very well that she should not have loved him in the first place. The grief she felt had lasted more than 5 short days. It felt more like countless days and nights. Regardless of who the victor or the loser was, today was perhaps the beginning and end of the tragedy. Doming and Erming regretted their choices. If they knew that the Douluo continent plane could replenish its life force by devouring the abyssal plane, they would never have consented to work with the Silver Dragon King. With the absence of the divine realm, Tangwulin would stand on the pinnacle of mankind's world for a few centuries in the future with his current status. He would be able to change mankind's perspective on the soul beasts and to utilize the 10,000 beast platform in multiplying the number of soul beasts. The soul beasts and mankind might be able to live peacefully with each other in the future. However, it was already too late to change anything now. They were incapable of controlling the situation at present. Fortunately, they could sense Yuna's perspective after communicating with her. They learned that she was not going to annihilate mankind after all. The silhouettes shot out from the Spirit Pagoda in succession. They were mankind's powerhouses led by the Spirit Pagoda, the War God Hall, Shrek Academy, and the Tang Sect. There were also the military soul masters who had powerful cultivation bases, were 7-ringed, and possessed the ability to fly. They were all hovering in midair. Their gazes remained dull and blank as before. Apparently, they were incapable of controlling themselves as they were still fully under someone else's influence. Meanwhile, a large number of light shadows emerged from the direction of the new Shrek city in the distance which rose into the sky. Within 5 short days, Molan had mobilized most of the military fighting forces to Shrek to the best of her abilities. With the Central Army Corps in the lead, the 6 mega troops sent out a total of 6,000 megas. The number of black megas was piteously low among the mega troops. The vast majority were medium low-grade megas. Meanwhile, the mechanized ground troops moved forward slowly in an orderly manner. The armored vehicles equipped with fixed soul ammunition launchers were at the rearguard. The army troops, which resembled a steel forest, exuded a murderous intent when it appeared on the plain. Molan was standing on an armored vehicle at the vanguard of the mechanized ground troops. Half her body was exposed. The federal military was encouraged by her presence. In 5 days, 300,000 soldiers were gathered here under the emergency mobilization. The 300,000 mechanized troops together with the mega troops would be enough to resist a million soul beasts. After the mechanized troops were revealed, 5 silhouettes flew out from the new Shrek city. The silhouette in the center was the Dragon Emperor Douluo Tangwulin, the 4 great limit Douluos, the boundless sea Douluo Chanzinji, the light dark Douluo Lon Yayu, the amorous Douluo Zhangxin, and the heartless Douluo Cao Daja were on both sides of him. There were only 5 of them, but it was precisely their presence which made the numerous beasts opposite them turn solemn. Chapter 1964 Negotiation. After the war against the abyss, all the 5 people were dead except for Tangwulin. The boundless sea Douluo Chanzinji had transformed himself into the sea god Douluo to fight against the demon empress who had already achieved true god rank. How much more powerful would he be now that his life force had been fully replenished? The light dark Douluo Lon Yayu had committed suicide for love, but she was the only quasi god rank powerhouse from Shrek Academy at the time. She was also the only limit Douluo from Shrek's older generation. How powerful was she as a limit Douluo with twin martial souls? At any rate, the soul beasts were more fearful of the other 2 powerful beings from the Tang Sect with their indomitable spirit. Life could be heartless, but you might still meet people full of passion. Amorous love loads itself for wrongly devoting love for the heartless, and emotions move to the heavens. The horrifying martial soul fusion was so powerful that it withheld the mighty abyssal sage king with his super divine weapon, the heaven Saint Crackabeers, for 3 days. If the person they chose to stop was the silver dragon princess Yuna, who would then be the golden dragon Moonsong Tangwulin's opponent among the numerous powerhouses on the scene. Hence, the soul beasts became solemn when they were confronted by the lineup despite having the upper hand. The comparison of abilities was not determined by the number of people. It would be possible for the 5 great powerhouses from mankind's side to turn the tide. At this exact moment, a silver silhouette flew out from the Spirit Pagoda. She had silver hair and purple eyes. She was just as exquisite as before. She had been the idol of countless people in the past and was the goddess of youths. The youths who had been enticed by her beauty were still in disbelief, although she now stood on the opposite side of mankind. She had almost everything that a woman could dream of. She had exquisite beauty, an alluring figure, and powerful abilities to match a well-respected status. Yet, everything changed when she revealed herself to be the Silver Dragon King. The situation could now possibly turn into a collision war between the clans. On the other hand, such a war would determine whether mankind was doomed for extinction or strong enough to survive. Although Yuna was still very far away, Tangwulin's gaze had shifted to her the moment she appeared. It was due to the guidance of her aura. Their eyes met and their gazes appeared calm on the surface. However, were they as calm in their hearts as they appeared externally? The entire plane quietened down instantly. The legions from both sides stopped when they were about 10 kilometers apart. A gust of wind blew. A foul wind surged through the Soul Beast's legion. Deep roars were heard, and the Soul Beast legion became agitated as they casted their hostile gazes at mankind. They were waiting for the Silver Dragon Princess's order to wage a beast tide against mankind's legion. Mankind's mechanized troops had already aimed all the cannons' muzzles directly at the opposite side and were awaiting orders similarly. Silver Dragon King. A clear voice echoed throughout the entire scene from a soul loudspeaker. It was precisely Molan's voice. How may I help you? Yuna could recognize Molan naturally. With her perfect vision, she could see Molan even if they were thousands of meters apart. She was also aware of the relationship between the newly appointed speaker and Tangwulin. The outstanding people whom she described to Teen earlier included Molan naturally. Molan said in a deep voice, "The continent has just suffered an attack from the abyssal plane recently. It has just begun to recover. Are you trying to ruin the calm with your soul beasts?" Yuna said indifferently, "Your Excellency, you should understand why we are here. You're right. We intentionally chose the present moment. You've already lost a destructive weapon like the Eternal Heaven, and you don't have the support of the Lord of the Plane anymore. Our intention is to get an explanation from mankind today. All your present troubles are the result of mankind's actions." Molan responded, "Your Excellency Silver Dragon King, I understand your point naturally. However, it's a biased view. In ancient times, when the weak served as prey for the strong, how did the soul beasts treat mankind then? According to the historical records of the Federation, soul beasts dominated the entire Douluo continent at a time when mankind served as the appendages of the soul beasts. You perceived mankind as weak, helpless beings. Mostly, mankind was considered food for the soul beasts. Can you tell me how many humans were killed for food by your soul beasts? The conflict between mankind and soul beasts is definitely not caused by the soul master's need for soul rings alone. It isn't just now. The collisions between the two clans began in ancient times. However, the status quo is constantly changing. Mankind may be weak, but we possess the creative power that you don't. We gradually seized control of the world's power. With that, soul masters began to appear. We stabilized our footing a step at a time. The construction of our cities was to resist the slaughter of the soul beasts. For thousands of years, mankind developed at intervals and multiplied gradually. In time, we became powerful. I acknowledge that we got lost in the process. In pursuit of even more powerful abilities, we wreaked havoc in oppressing and slaughtering the soul beasts. On the other hand, we also put in our own efforts to achieve our objective. For example, the Spirit Pagoda was founded to replace the soul rings with man-made spirit souls. Since then, both mankind and soul beasts attain higher levels of intelligence. Nevertheless, mankind still has a need for the soul beasts so as to maintain the ecological balance. Times have changed. From the mainstream status of the soul beasts in the past to mankind's oppression of the soul beasts now. Thus, the almost extinct soul beasts are now seeking revenge from us. Even if you manage to destroy mankind, will you be able to receive any good out of it? In any case, I don't think you're capable of annihilating mankind. You may be capable of matching mankind's tenacity and creative power. Even if you can control mankind's powerhouses to achieve your goals, you're still relying on mankind. There'll be another generation of mankind. You've got a million soul beasts. Do you think you're capable of dominating the entire Douluo continent? The Lord of the Plain has yet to disappear completely. He's only in deep sleep. When the world loses its ecological balance, I believe that he'll appear once again. Moreover, mankind still has two more continents, which are the Douluo and the Dou Spirit continents. Even if you're capable of destroying us, mankind's revenge awaits you in the future. Yuna said in an indifferent tone, don't think too highly of your Lord of the Plain. Even if he were to appear, he may not be able to stop our operation. Your Excellency, it's useless to talk too much. We're not the same clan, and we've our own desires and appeals. The soul beasts want to return to this world to take back what's ours. Brilliance shot out from Molan's eyes. You're right about us having different desires and appeals. However, why can't we seek common ground while reserving the differences? We don't mind the soul beasts multiplying, but we need to come to an agreement to achieve peace. If your Excellency Silver Dragon King is willing, we can negotiate to settle the differences now. Negotiation. It was Molan's goal. She was aware of mankind's inferior position at present. Under such circumstances, she was negotiating to delay the opposing side. She was hoping to seek a common ground while keeping the differences. Perhaps, mankind would then stand a higher chance of survival. She would never allow the war to proceed, if possible. Once the war began, the enmity between the two sides would only deepen. They no longer had a godhood to resurrect the dead anymore. Hence, the best time to negotiate would be before the war commenced. The beasts in the sky looked toward Yuna. They were not bothered by Molan's declaration. The disparity between the two sides was rather huge still. Actually, they were more concerned about Yuna's attitude. After all, she had a relationship with Tangwulin. As it were, her attitude would determine it all. Chapter 1965 The terms. Yuna was silent for a moment. She grunted coldly once under the close watch of the numerous beasts. A negotiation, huh? So be it then. If you fulfill a few of our terms, we won't unleash the beast tide. Deming and Erming felt relieved upon hearing her response. However, the beast god Yutian panicked. He was about to speak when he abruptly felt the presence of a terrifying divine consciousness. He immediately withheld the word which was already at the tip of his tongue. Let's take a seat to discuss, shall we? How about on the plain? Molan hastily grabbed the opportunity. Sure. I'm only willing to discuss with you alone, said Yuna indifferently. Molan raised her head and looked toward Tangwulin in the sky. Tangwulin nodded at her. Although both of them stood on opposing sides now, Tangwulin still trusted Yuna. He knew Yuna well enough that Yuna would not possibly hurt Molan. Molan dispatched the order. The armored vehicle carrying her moved forward slowly in the direction of the soul beasts. Thousands of soldiers from mankind's legion were behind her, while ahead of her were a million soul beasts. In such a grand setting, she stood without budging. She was steady as a rock and calm as the abyss. She did not waver nor cower in fear even the slightest bit. The people watching the scene via a satellite broadcast felt their agitated hearts calm down. Undoubtedly, the outcome of the negotiation was exceedingly important to her. However, her courage was similarly important. Their support for the newly appointed speaker soared exponentially in their hearts. Currently, Molan has the highest approval rate among the speakers since the founding of the Federation on the Douluo continent. Her courage displayed the glory of the Federation's leadership. The armored vehicle moved until it was midway between the two legions. Molan ordered the vehicle to stop. She then got down from the vehicle and walked to the center point slowly. She promised that she would come alone, so she was there by herself. She exhibited her sincerity. No one is allowed to act recklessly without my order. Yuna took a cold glance at Titian. Titian felt the chills in his chest, for he had actually considered it earlier. He was going to launch a sudden attack to kill the speaker by giving the order to the soul beasts, which he controlled. She was just an ordinary person after all. The death of Molan would certainly trigger the war between the two sides. At any rate, he would not have the courage to act rashly after being warned by Yuna. He could feel Yuna's resentment toward him. After all, the current situation was still within the control of the soul beasts. The numerous beasts bowed toward Yuna simultaneously. Their gazes were filled with determination. The opportunity had finally arrived after so many years. They could never miss an opportunity like this. A silver radiance shimmered. It only took a split second. A silver light flashed once before Molan's eyes, and Yuna was already facing her. Molan was caught in a trance as she looked at the silhouette that suddenly emerged before her. She had met Yuna more than once. It seemed like Yuna was different each time she met her. In Molan's memory, Yuna was a quiet, young maiden who did not enjoy chatting much. Yuna was the only person who was a worthy match for her brother. Molan heaved a sigh and blurted, "The god of destiny makes fools of people." Yuna's gaze remained calm as before. Let's discuss the terms. I have a few terms. If you can vouch for the Douluo Federation's promise to fulfill it immediately, then the war can be prevented. Molan felt the chills in her chest. She had recovered from the momentary trance earlier and made an inviting gesture. She said, "Please go ahead." Yuna took a glance at Molan and said, "First, there must be a living space for our soul beasts on the Douluo continent. The living space includes, but is not limited to the initial area of the Great Star Dou Forest. Mankind will need to help us rebuild the Great Star Dou Forest and should be the largest in mankind's recorded history. Also, the rebuilt Great Star Dou Forest will be categorized as a prohibited zone for mankind. Mankind is not allowed to enter the place without permission." Molan's eyes were crystal clear. She said, "Please continue." Yuna said, "Second, the Douluo Federation shall coordinate the effort to build habitats for soul beasts in the Douluo and the Dou Spirit empires, which are no smaller than the Great Star Dou Forest. The rest of the term is similar to the first term." Molan nodded. Understood. Is there anything else? Yuna continued in an expressionless manner. Third, all of mankind's technology must be destroyed completely, especially all the data related to soul weapons. Disassemble all the soul equipment and return mankind's world to its original state. At the same time, all items related to soul technology must be destroyed such that mankind's society will regress. That's impossible, blurted Molan. The first two terms could be taken into consideration with some effort. However, mankind could not possibly agree to the third term. The act of returning mankind's world to its original state was equal to mankind regressing for 10,000 years. The public could not possibly accept the reality of mankind regressing. Yuna behaved as if she was completely oblivious to the objection. She continued to say, "Fourth, all mankind's soul masters will be executed. Mankind won't have any more soul masters in the future. Without soul masters, our soul beasts won't be hunted naturally." Molan raised her eyebrows in anger. "What you're saying is you want mankind to return to being food for you as in ancient times, right?" Yuna said indifferently, "We only wish for mankind to not be a threat to us. Fifth, all of mankind's skills in space exploration must be compiled and surrendered to us. The soul beasts will carry out the research instead. Moreover, mankind shall regard the soul beasts as their master on the Douluo continent and follow orders. A number of mankind's scientific researchers will assist us in continuing the research. Soul beasts shall dominate the main roles on the Douluo continent, the Douluo continent, and the Dou Spirit continent. These are the 5 terms precisely. If you agree to it, war can be prevented and more humans will stay alive. If you don't agree, then we'll use brute force to ensure you do." A radiance glimmered in Yuna's eyes. "Your Excellency Silver Dragon King, don't you think that these 5 terms are a bit excessive? You should know that even if you don't do a thing, more than half the human population on the Douluo continent will die from starvation if all the soul technology is destroyed. It would be impossible to carry out the activities such as agriculture, animal farming, and manufacturing to feed the population. Mankind today is no longer the same as in ancient times. The vast expansion of our population requires technological support to fulfill our needs. That's your problem. It's not my concern. I'm only asking for these 5 terms," said Yuna with a calm gaze. They did not try to keep their voices low. Molan carried a communicator with her. Obviously, the negotiation was transmitted back to mankind's side. At the same time, Yuna's voice was also transmitted. Thousands of soldiers from both sides could hear the conversation clearly, especially when she voiced out the 5 terms. Molan took a deep breath and attempted to calm herself as much as possible. "Your Excellency Silver Dragon King, this is an important matter with high stakes. I can't make the decision on my own. Will you please allow me to discuss with the others?" Yuna said coldly, "I've already given you 5 days. If you can't represent mankind, then it's utterly meaningless for you to be here. I'm giving you an hour. If you still can't give me a reply by then, we'll let the battle decide." She did not room for further concessions. A silver radiance flashed once, and she vanished into thin air. An hour? Molan was trying to strive for more time provided by the negotiation. Apparently, Dou was not giving them the opportunity. She returned to the armored vehicle immediately, and the armored vehicle drove back to their side. Tangwulin and the 4 Great Limit Douluos descended from the sky and landed next to Molan. You heard the terms. They are utterly impossible. Molan frowned deeply. Chapter 1966. The opponent for the first round. The light dark Douluo Lan Yeyu said in a deep voice. This is a normal situation. The soul beasts have absolute superiority now, so the terms proposed can't be easily agreed upon naturally. Chen Zhenji said. She's not sincere at all when she proposed the terms. It's still possible to fulfill the first 2 terms, but the rest of the terms are hardly acceptable. It seems like the battle is inevitable. Let's prepare to fight the battle then. His status in the military was unparalleled. The supreme commander of the 3 current armies was the boundless Douluo. Fortunately, he was around to take command of the armies. However, there was a saying, one can't make bricks without straw. He did not have the powerhouses from the war god hall with him. In fact, he did not even have a single high-ranking military officer. Hence, it would be rather difficult to command the troops. Molan asked with a forced smile. Do we really stand a chance if the battle were to take place? I don't think we stand a chance for the time being. Molan, you should leave. You're the only person who can bring hope for the future. Molan suddenly told Tangwulin. When Dou proposed those terms earlier, Molan knew that even the parliament could not possibly agree to the terms if she had discussed it with the parliament using the soul communicator. Those terms were utterly aimed at letting the soul beasts slaughter mankind. Tangwulin shook his head. How can I leave? The opportunity is right before our eyes. I figured it out. Sister, please promise me one thing. Molan was stunned for a moment. What is it? Tangwulin said, whether I succeed by luck or die in battle, let's try to fulfill the first 2 terms which she proposed earlier. The Douluo continent has sufficient life force now. If the soul beast's world can be revived, it'll be a good thing for the continent too. Rebuilding the Great Star Dou Forest is a better way to recover the Douluo continent's life force. We can rely on the regeneration of the life force on the continent. I believe we can rebuild the Great Star Dou Forest. After all, the Great Star Dou Forest is very close to Shrek City. So long as the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters can be removed, I believe that the Great Star Dou Forest will regain its former scale in less than a century based on the growth rate of the plants now. Brother, what are you going to do? Molan did not listen closely to Tangwulin's request, but she could tell from his choice of words that he was resolute. Tangwulin smiled calmly. I'm the only person who can possibly solve the situation. Sister, you're the federal parliament speaker. I believe that you can do it. Upon saying that, a golden radiance shimmered on Tangwulin. He leapt up and flew toward the soul beasts. The 4 Great Limit Douluos gazed into the eyes of one another. They could see the solemnness in each other's eyes. 4 of them flew in pursuit of Tangwulin. Molan frowned deeply. She felt restless in her heart, although she had no idea what Tangwulin was about to do. Tangwulin's words earlier were uttered with determination. The calmer he sounded, the more it revealed the determination in his heart. The numerous beasts assumed battle formation immediately upon seeing the arrival of the 5 people, Tangwulin included. At the same time, Deming and Erming's gazes turned complicated as well. Deming turned his head to the side to look toward Dou and said in a deep voice, if it's down to Wulin, we won't help out. Dou did not even bother to look at him. She only nodded. All right. The 2 parties approached one another. Dou found it rather surprising that Tangwulin was still dressed in the ceremonial suit that he wore to propose to her the other day. He looked just as handsome and graceful as before. She lowered her head subconsciously and took a glance at her left hand. The dark blue ring was wrapped around her ring finger. She had not removed it ever since he put it on for her the other day. Stop. Ditian shouted aloud at Tangwulin to tell him to stop advancing. Tangwulin stopped moving when he was about 100 meters away from the soul beasts. Even though there were only 5 of them, Ditian felt the intense pressure exerted by Tangwulin's presence despite his cultivation base. Tangwulin's gaze swept past the soul masters with blank stares, then the numerous beasts before finally stopping at Dou's face. Your Excellency Silver Dragon King, you and I are the most powerful fighting force. Even if war is initiated, the final result will still be decided based on the collision between me and you. Since that'll be the case, why forsake the others to cause them misery and suffering? Let's engage in a decisive battle. I challenge you to a fight. Dou's body shook once in a manner that was barely discernible. She looked at Tangwulin with an icy cold expression. You want to challenge me? Why should I accept your challenge despite my side having absolute superiority? Tangwulin was stunned for a moment. He did not expect Dou to speak in such a manner. His gaze surveyed the beasts around Dou. He said coldly, I believe that no one here is capable of stopping me if I were to challenge you. Dou grunted once. Really? If that's the case, let's have a wager. A bet. Tangwulin looked astonished. It was his first time hearing Dou uttering the word. For as long as he could remember, Dou was not a person who gambled. In fact, she even detested it. Dou said indifferently, you, too, heard the 5 terms I proposed earlier. I'm going to give you a chance. You shall fight alone while my side will send out 3 rounds of powerhouses to fight against you. With each round that you win, we'll remove 1 term. Tangwulin's eyes lit up. Even if Dou were to take her place in the final round, he would stand a chance to achieve victory in the first 2 rounds. At the very least, from his view, no one from the opposing side was capable of stopping him other than Dou. Don't, Your Highness. This. Clap. Ditian had just spoken when he was immediately blasted out of sight by a Silver Dragon Claw slap. The Silver Dragon King Dou's eyes were glowing with overbearingness. She said coldly, does anybody wish to question my decision still? A terrifying divine consciousness bloomed instantly. Almost every living being on the scene felt their body sink except Tangwulin. Their bodies sank 10 meters deep. Deming and Erming were no exception. Deming and Erming gazed into the eyes of one another. They could not help expressing their astonishment. They were well aware that Dou was very powerful and had, perhaps, achieved the original god rank. Yet, they did not expect her to be powerful to this extent. Her divine consciousness obviously surpassed the power of the Abyssal Sage King in the past. Apparently, her Silver Dragon King had awakened fully. She might still be suppressed by the plane to a certain extent, but the suppression could not overpower her. Perhaps, she could even struggle free from the plane's suppression. Dou was different from Molan. Although Molan was a leader of mankind, she could not make all the decisions. On the other hand, Dou was the true god of all the beasts. Her decision was akin to a decree for the soul beasts. Ditian had queried her on multiple occasions. Finally, Dou had an emotional outburst. He could not dodge Dou's slap despite his cultivation base, which was close to a million-year soul beast that could surpass Gen even. He was blasted away by the impact. If this was the case with Ditian, who else had the courage to question the Silver Dragon Princess? All the beasts lowered their heads in fear. They did not think that Dou would show them mercy, since that was how Her Highness had behaved upon her return. Tangwulin's expression did not change at all. I agreed to the challenge of 3 rounds. Shall we begin now? Dou said calmly. Let's do it now then. Your opponent for the first round will be. At this point, she paused for a moment. Her gaze did not shift to the beasts on her side. Instead, she looked toward mankind's soul masters on her side whose divine consciousness was being controlled by her. Yi Xinglin, Yuan Nui, Shi, Shu Lizzie, Yue Hengyu, Shu Shaoan, Araheng, and Sima Jinkai. Take part in the first round. As soon as those words were spoken, Tangwulin's expression changed drastically. The way he looked at Dou changed as well. You. Dou raised her chin ever so slightly and said in an arrogant manner, why? Are you scared? Chapter 1967. You did great. Tangwulin was breathing rapidly. He never expected Dou to go against him, although he was fully prepared before he came. In fact, he even tried to dull his senses. He was in a death-like state, yet he felt his heart churn in agony when he learned that Dou had scheduled him to fight against his closest comrades. He was not concerned about his failure to defeat his comrades, but he could not get over Dou's attitude. Was she really treating him as if he was the enemy? Besides, she was being unscrupulous. At present, the beast god Ditian was flying back from afar with his puffed up cheeks. Upon receiving Dou's order, he felt a little ashamed. He understood what Dou meant by 3 rounds. In his view, Tangwulin was undoubtedly the biggest obstacle in the soul beast's effort to dominate the world. Even the Silver Dragon King Dou may not necessarily be able to defeat him. In the 3 rounds of battles to decide victory or defeat, the first 2 rounds would tire Tangwulin to a certain extent. Consequently, his state of mind would be disturbed. Hence, the possibility of Dou achieving victory when she fought against him would be elevated immensely. Superb. Her Highness's ruse is brilliant. As long as she can defeat Tangwulin, Her Highness will fuse with him so the dragon god can be fully restored. In fact, it is highly possible for her to build a new divine realm with the Douluo continent as the core. It will be a divine realm which belongs to the soul beasts. By then, the soul weapons will be rendered useless. For a while, Ditian could not help but feel a little disappointed. Everything which he regarded as a problem earlier was overcome by Her Highness, who arranged it all in perfect order. In fact, she was only preceded by the sea god Tang San when it came to having the ability to set up a plan. Everything else aside, the plan's timing was perfect. The advantage was gained with little effort. The familiar silhouettes organized themselves in a line before Tangwulin. Tangwulin felt his heart being cut into pieces as he looked at them. He looked at Yuna. His face was even a little pale. Great. You did great. Yuna remained expressionless just as before. She watched him coldly with close attention. Let's begin. Before her voice died away, her eyes suddenly turned nine-colored instantly. The 8 people standing before Tangwulin, with their stupefied expressions, moved. The first person to launch an attack was precisely the current body Douluo, Arahang, who possessed the leak-proof golden body. A violent blood essence shot out abruptly from the back of Arahang's huge body. He rammed into Tangwulin, akin to a meteor. He was so swift which made him almost irresistible within such a short distance. Tangwulin raised his left hand with a cold expression. Bang! A gush of enormous airwaves were unleashed from Tangwulin's left hand. Arahang's mighty strike slammed into his palm and came to a halt. It was a full force slam by a limit Douluo ranked powerhouse whose body's endurance was pretty close to god rank. Yet, it was incapable of transgressing Tangwulin's palm. At the same time, 2 silhouettes shot toward Tangwulin from both sides. A piercing holy light burst forth and transformed into a dazzling brilliance. 3 pairs of pure white wings spread out behind Yue's and Yu's back. He held the saint sword with both hands. A holy radiance swirled in his pupils. The surging holy power transformed into a startling rainbow to cut toward Tangwulin in a Spartan manner. On the other side, Yuan and Yui's body swelled up to 10 meters when she flew out. The illusory shadow of the Titan giant ape emerged behind her. She threw a punch which fused her essence, energy, and spirit into one terrifying Titan divine punch. Their fighting capacities were not weakened despite having their divine consciousnesses being controlled by Yuna. In fact, their efficient teamwork had not disappeared either. A star chain linked up the Shrek 6 monsters, Arahang, and Sima Jinkai as well. At the same time, a gigantic star wheel appeared under Tangwulin's feet. Tangwulin was caught in the middle of the 2 attacks. He figured that it was impossible for him to evade the attacks. Furthermore, there was the star wheel beneath his feet. For a moment, he seemed trapped in an impossible situation. At any rate, the weakest link in the Shrek 6 monsters had a cultivation base that was already at hyper Douluo rank. In addition, all of them had forward battle armors which were personally forged by Tangwulin. In a complete outburst, every single one of them was no weaker than an ordinary limit Douluo. Moreover, their close cooperation amplified their abilities immensely. Nonetheless, Tangwulin was familiar with the moves of his comrades just as they were equally familiar with Tangwulin's. He took a step forward abruptly. The moment the star wheel appeared, he stepped out of its range. However, his action affected his ability to resist the Titan divine punch and the holy light strike. His arms grew thicker and stronger in an instant. Tangwulin used his left hand to slap Yue's Yu. A loud boom was heard. The golden radiance produced an intense tremor at the side of Yue's Yu. The strike of the holy light was shattered by the slap. It was the golden dragon blast. In the next moment, he used his right hand to slap Yuan and Yui. 5 incredibly sharp claws resisted the Titan divine punch with a force akin to tearing open the entire world. Poof! The Titan divine punch's power was dispersed. Yuan and Yui's body retreated when the claw's radiances got close to Yuan and Yui. She managed to fully neutralize the counterattack by swinging a few punches. It was the golden dragon Dreadclaw. Tangwulin repulsed the 2 of them simultaneously with his powerful golden dragon king skills. At the same time, he managed to evade Shu Shaowen's control. However, his opponents were more than just the 4 with whom he had exchanged attacks earlier. Meanwhile, 4 other silhouettes appeared at different positions around him. In the sky, a speckle of star fell atop Tangwulin's head which carried an unparalleled sharp radiance. It was Yizinglin's starfall sword. Below Tangwulin, a silhouette emerged. The double dragon daggers moved swiftly and transformed into a sharp blade's radiance. A gigantic saber with an indomitable, terrifying aura and an immense overbearingness arrived in front of Tangwulin. The Gale Saber demon Sima Jinkai's dragon slaying saber had been unleashed. Behind Tangwulin, an enormous bamboo steamer was trying to devour him. It was Shu Lizzie's martial soul avatar. In a battle of 8-on-1, it was indeed an unfair competition. The beast god Ditian silently made his way back to the beast's side. He was shocked upon witnessing the scene. He wondered whether he was capable of resisting the opponents had he been in Tangwulin's place. He would perhaps be able to do it before the creation of battle armors. The amplification effect of the forward battle armor was so powerful that each opponent of Tangwulin was close to the rank of a limit Douluo. Anyway, the soul beasts did not even have the slightest idea of battle armor. Mankind's development was tremendous. Had they not planted the seeds in the spirit souls to control these powerful soul masters, they would not be able to fight against mankind by relying on the soul beasts from the 10,000 beast platform alone. Just the combination of Shrek Academy and the Tang sect might be enough to turn them into dust. At present, Ditian no longer bore any dissent toward Yuna. He took a peek at the Silver Dragon King. Undoubtedly, Yuna's current arrangement was at its best. Had it not been Her Highness, they hardly stood a chance. He only hoped for a good result at the end. He approved of the 5 terms proposed by Yuna very much. The only way to make more living space for the soul beasts was to make mankind regress substantially. In fact, he even thought that the better choice would be to kill more humans to effectively reduce the human population. Today, mankind was too creative and innovative. Besides, the number of soul beasts was limited. There was no telling how many years it would take them to recover to the levels of ancient times. If mankind were to play any tricks covertly, such as producing something akin to the god killer ranked fixed soul ammunition, they would be threatened immensely. Judging from the current situation, mankind would never agree to those terms. The ideal outcome would be to seize the opportunity to wipe out mankind now. The crucial step was to defeat Tangwulin completely. Once this almighty who possessed the golden dragon king bloodline was eliminated, no other person from mankind would be able to resist Her Highness anymore. Chapter 1968 Fighting hard against all sides. As he was confronted by attacks from all 4 directions, Tangwulin retracted his right hand, which had just repulsed Yuan and Yui. A ray of golden light flickered. The golden dragon spear appeared in his grasp. The golden dragon spear was pierced forward. Thousands of spear tips were fused as one. It was precisely the 1,000 accusing fingers. Ding! A crisp sound was heard. The blade of Sima Jinkai's dragon-slaying saber was struck by it. The 2 divine weapons collided once again. Both weapons glowed brighter from the collision. They were supposed to grind and sharpen one another, and they both originated from the dragon god in the beginning. Sima Jinkai's cultivation base was much weaker than Tangwulin's. The disparity was huge judging by Sima Jinkai's strength. His body bounced back from the violent tremor. At the same time, Tangwulin extended his left hand and grasped the air. He did not grasp toward the 3 people attacking him. Rather, he grasped at the void before him. A black hole which was not too large appeared in his enlarged golden dragon claw's palm. However, everyone felt an enormous suction force radiating when the black hole appeared, including the 4 people who attacked Tangwulin. In the meantime, Tangwulin had transformed into a vortex. The vortex even had a devouring power. Buzz! The starfall sword which was falling from the sky deviated from its initial path while the double dragon daggers rising from below were shaken off. The bamboo steamer before Tangwulin also vanished instantly as if it had been devoured by the void. A muffled grunt was heard. Shu Lizzie revealed himself. It was the forbid all laws, Dragon Emperor Break. After having gone through a few consecutive battles and received continuous training to elevate himself to god rank, Tangwulin's Dragon Emperor Forbidden Law had matured. Just one move from the Dragon Emperor Break was enough to break the siege from the 3 people. Also, the golden dragon spear was abruptly pointed at the sky. In the next instant, a formidable combat heaven and earth consciousness burst forth from the spear. Everyone felt as if he had turned into a giant over 10,000 meters in height at the moment. His presence could support heaven and earth. At the same time, his power was unparalleled. Each attack unleashed on him seemed puny akin to stopping a car with the arms of a praying mantis. It was the forbid heaven earth, Dragon Emperor fight. Everyone including the Shrek 6 monsters, Arahang, and Sima Jinkai felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. It affected their abilities substantially such that everyone's movement slowed down soon after. The Dragon Emperor fight was an ability similar to a domain. It could be used to intimidate the opponent while elevating his willpower to fight. Everyone's abilities were different. When an ability was expressed to its full potential, one's fighting capacity could be elevated to more than 100%. On the other hand, if one's ability was not in top form, one's fighting capacity could drop by 20%. The Dragon Emperor fight suppressed the opponent while allowing the wielder to express his or her power beyond the norm. The golden dragon spear in Tangwulin's hand burst forth with a dazzling radiance with the infusion of the massive god power and divine consciousness. Under the amplification of the Dragon Emperor fight, his next attack would be devastating without a doubt. At the moment, almost everyone on the entire continent was watching the battle with close attention. Every commoner of the Douluo Federation was focused intently on watching their cell screens. They were bedazzled by Tangwulin's performance. He was a true powerhouse. He was truly an almighty. It seemed all the other skills paled in comparison to his. After all, the Shrek 6 monsters had exceedingly rich combat experiences. When the 8 of them were repulsed by Tangwulin, they changed their battle formation rapidly. All 8 of them lined up before Tangwulin under the guidance of Xu Shaoan's star chain. The body Douluo, Arahang stood at the front, followed by Sima Jinkai, and the Shrek 6 monsters with Xu Shaoan at the back. The forward battle armors cladded to their bodies became illuminated. It began with Xu Shaoan's battle armor until Arahang's battle armor finally lit up. 8 as 1. In the next instant, Arahang's body turned golden red and was almost translucent. It seemed like he was going to break out of his own body. Why was he standing at the front? It was precisely because his physical endurance could withstand such terrifying energy fusion. The soul power under his control was no weaker than the god-ranked power at present. Despite possessing the leak-proof golden body, Arahang felt like his body was about to explode. Venting was what he had to do now. Otherwise, it was highly possible that his body would burst from the power overload. Arahang roared wildly once. He swung his right fist. A ball of condensed golden red radiance burst out instantly and blasted toward Tangwulin. Tangwulin had accumulated his power to the maximal level by now. His silhouette shimmered violently as he unleashed the forbid commonplace. Dragon Emperor charge. A deep dragon's roar was heard echoing through the entire sky. A piercing golden radiance exploded. His eyes turned red at the moment, while his majestic aura showed no mercy. It took only a moment before it collided into Arahang's full force blast. Boom. The 8 silhouettes were blasted and scattered all over, while Tangwulin was halted by the tremor as well. However, the golden dragon spear which he pierced forward reached Arahang, who was at the frontmost. Soon, the speed it pulsated and pierced Arahang's chest. The Dragon Emperor charge amplified by the Dragon Emperor fight had produced a certain effect when it was unleashed on the Abyssal Sage King. It had also shocked the Demon Empress with its powerful aura. Tangwulin, whose body and spiritual power had already achieved god rank, certainly surpassed all his comrades. Thus, even if his comrades could concentrate their powers and burst forth with a power level that rivaled his, there was still a huge disparity between Tangwulin's control of his power and their own control undoubtedly. However, his golden dragon spear came to a halt. It stopped about a meter away from Arahang's chest. Was Arahang's leak-proof golden body capable of withstanding Tangwulin's golden dragon spear, especially when he was supported by the star chain which could distribute the damage? Tangwulin had no idea at all because they had never tested it before. However, the golden dragon spear was capable of devouring life force. If he was not careful, he could accidentally devour too much to threaten Arahang's life. Despite his leak-proof golden body, no one could confirm that Arahang might be able to withstand a god-ranked powerhouse's divine weapon. The 8 people were not in their right minds. On the other hand, Tangwulin was clear-headed. How could he possibly hurt his comrades? During the momentary pause, the sky suddenly darkened. The dazzling starry sky domain was unleashed. Not only that, Arahang's body turned illusory and vanished instantly. Also, Shishu was carried away to the distance to evade Tangwulin's golden dragon spear. Ditian laughed at this point. He knew that the 8 people could not stop Tangwulin if he went all out to fight with his absolute abilities. However, would Tangwulin do that? Since he was fighting against his closest comrades, would he kill them recklessly? Under such circumstances, how much fighting capacity should he unleash then? It was utterly impossible for him to hurt his comrades. On the other hand, the 8, which included the Shrek 6 monsters, had no qualms at all. They were capable of expressing their fighting capacity to the max naturally. Regardless of how these 8 people could exhaust Tangwulin, their presence alone was enough to affect Tangwulin emotionally such that he could not be at his best. Under such circumstances, the outcome of the battle was apparent. Your Highness is brilliant. Actually, they were more concerned about Tangwulin's reluctance to take part in this final battle, since a god-ranked powerhouse wandering freely was even more terrifying. If he were to observe the situation from afar in search of an opportunity, it was possible for him to kill or hurt any beast. In fact, he could even destroy the 10,000 beast platform and no one could stop him. However, he chose to take part in the fight instead. It was evident that he was following his emotions blindly. At the thought of this, the smile on Ditian's face grew wider. Tangwulin. Oh, Tangwulin. Today will be the day of your death. Chapter 1969 Dazzling. Starry Sky. Angel. The dazzling starry sky domain was unleashed. Streams of starlight descended from the sky and shot toward Tangwulin with precision. Each time a starlight landed on Tangwulin, his body halted naturally, but it did not last for very long. After all, he had achieved god rank. The absolute immobility effect of the dazzling starry sky domain was targeted at those below the god rank. At god rank, the immobility effect was much weaker. If Tangwulin possessed the godhood tablet, he would be totally immune to the immobility effect. It was rather unfortunate that he did not have the tablet. Thus, each time a starlight landed on his body, it could only stop him temporarily. Yet, it was precisely those momentary pauses that rendered Tangwulin incapable of unleashing his abilities consistently. The unleashing of the domain made Xu Shao on the core of the group instantly. Her dazzling starlight domain was no longer just a pure martial soul avatar. It was an elevation powered by the tremendous amplification of her forward battle armor. It was the forward battle armor customized by Tangwulin for her so that she could fully express her ability as the number 1 control type soul master under the starry sky to the ultimate level. Certainly Tangwulin never thought that he would be the one confronting this powerful dazzling starry sky domain one day when he forged the set of battle armor for her. On the other hand, was Xu Shaoan the only person who could unleash her domain? When the dazzling starry sky domain was unleashed, everything within the starry sky became distorted and turned illusory. The feeling which alternated between reality and illusion rendered a person confused. Moreover, everyone on the scene had vanished within the illusion. Tangwulin could not feel their presence even when he scanned the surroundings with his divine consciousness. When the Shrek 6 monsters worked together as a team, their combined effects were more than the sum of its individual members' effects. The dazzling starry sky domain elevated Xu Shaoan's abilities to its ultimate level such that the star chain was no longer just for sharing soul power and damage. It even enabled these people to share their spiritual powers to a certain extent. They possessed a spiritual power that was close to the divine consciousness. On the other hand, the illusory domain belonged to Shishi. It was the space-time domain which he unleashed under the amplification of his forward battle armor with a strong control over space and time. When Tangwulin and Gyuno were fighting against the Abyssal Sage King in the past, the intensity of the power emitted by these 3 powerhouses was so powerful that the Shrek 6 monsters and the others were utterly incapable of expressing their capabilities. In fact, they did not have a chance to do so. However, they now had the chance to express their true fighting abilities. In the distorted space and time, immersed in a spiritual power that was no weaker than the divine consciousness, Tangwulin was mystified and confused by the surrounding illusions. He could not determine where his comrades were. In fact, he was shocked at this exact moment. It turned out that his comrades had grown to become so powerful. It was only but the beginning. Suddenly, Tangwulin felt his feet weighted down. An immense suction force radiated from his feet. It felt more like a shift in the gravity. His mountain dragon king's torso bone was capable of controlling gravity too. The only other person among the Shrek 7 monsters who had this ability was Yuan and Yui. Tangwulin could still remember how he used to discuss with Yuan and Yui on the type of domain to bestow on her battle armor in the past. Why, after considering carefully, Yuan and Yui made the decision to adjust the setting of her battle armor to gravity control when she was in her Titan giant take form. Also, the power of her ability amplified by the forward battle armor even surpassed Tangwulin's mountain dragon king torso bone. A strong suction force began to exhaust Tangwulin's god power. He immediately urged the mountain dragon king's torso bone to neutralize the pull of the gravity. At the same time, his body endured the pressure that was growing stronger over time. A distinct, melodious hymn was heard echoing loudly. The melodious singing filled the illusory space. Following the appearance of the hymn, everything in the surroundings turned brighter. Little golden angels emerged and shuttled through space-time. It was undoubtedly Yui's Henyu's ability. Soon after, giant dragons appeared under the little angels. These giant dragons came in different shapes and sizes. All of them appeared malicious. Each giant dragon was filled with a savage aura which formed a bright contrast against the little angels riding on their heads. These were not real giant dragons, but were dragon souls that came from the Gale Saber demon Simajinkai dragon slaying saber. The dragon slaying saber was the dragon clan's power saber which had slaughtered countless dragon clans rebels in the past. The dragon souls that belonged to these rebels were absorbed by the dragon slaying saber, turning it into a divine weapon gradually. At present, these dragon souls were unleashed with Simajinkai's domain, which was a part of the siege against Tangwulin. The starlight in the sky grew brighter over time. It felt as if each star was an eye staring at Tangwulin. What's this all about? Tangwulin had never encountered this situation before. He actually had no idea that the place he was in at the moment was precisely an array specially designed by the Shrek 6 monsters to fight against a formidable powerhouse. After the battle against the Abyssal Sage King, the Shrek 6 monsters realized that they were not powerful enough. Although the formidable enemy was defeated, they were still disappointed and dissatisfied with their own performance. When they fought against a formidable enemy, they were incapable of helping Tangwulin and Guyuna. Had it not been the descent of the God King at the time, they might have been completely annihilated on that day. Even though they might not necessarily have to fight against such an opponent in the future, the Douluo continent began to experience an overall elevation following the devourment of the Abyssal Plane. In order to elevate themselves further, Shushaoan suggested they rehearse with this array during their cultivation together on normal days. There were huge disparities between their individual capabilities and ranks. Even Yuan and Yui with the highest cultivation base had just attained the limit Douluo rank recently. Nonetheless, all of them possessed forward battle armors. They had the support of a massive amount of soul power that their peer soul masters did not have. Their forward battle armors could almost ensure that they would be able to sustain their fighting capacities in a high-intensity battle. After some careful consideration, they began to construct the array. In the beginning, Shushaoan wanted to invite Tangwulin to join them. However, after a discussion, they concluded that Tangwulin was too different from them due to his god-ranked cultivation base. Most likely, he would not be able to fuse properly with them, so they carried out the practice on their own first. This was what they did upon their return. At the time, the array was not fully developed, but it was mature now. They were busy preparing for the group wedding, so they did not ask Tangwulin to test out the array in time. No one could foretell that they would be fighting against Tangwulin under such circumstances. They did not know that they would be using this strategy for the battle. It was done subconsciously. It was their best fighting strategy, which they thought of after encountering a formidable enemy. The stress which resulted from Tangwulin was the trigger that unleashed the array. When it was fully unleashed, the array became perfectly fused due to the stress brought about by Tangwulin. It fused their domains together to successfully complete the construction of the array. The Shrek 6 monsters had no idea that the array formed by the domains influenced the future of the Soul Master's world. In fact, it even changed the mode of the battle to a certain extent. Tangwulin did not act recklessly. It was almost instinctive for him to remain calm when he was in danger. However, he could feel the power of this array. He knew it would be no easy feat to break this array. Meanwhile, the array setup was already completed. The giant dragons which wandered in the surroundings suddenly turned into light shadows charging straight at Tangwulin. At the same time, the gravitational force applied to Tangwulin's body changed. It suddenly vanished without a trace such that the gravitational control of Tangwulin's mountain dragon king torso bone was affected. Hence, his physical balance was affected too. Chapter 1970 Heaven Earthlock. Although he recovered his balance in an instant by relying on his god-ranked physical endurance, there was a momentary loss of control. Seizing the opportunity, countless starlights shot down from the sky. Tangwulin paid no attention to the giant dragons charging toward him. He utilized the ghost shadow perplexing track to dodge the starlights shooting down from the sky. These starlights were not only moving especially swiftly after being enhanced by the domain, it had some influence over him as well. It was possible that Tangwulin's overall movement would be affected such that his comrades would have better chances of attacking him. Nevertheless, he neglected the power of these starlights. The ghost shadow perplexing track had concealed his track to perfection almost. Yet many starlights still landed on Tangwulin's body under the illumination of the starry sky, which stopped him momentarily. Clang. A crisp sound was heard. A series of sparks flashed past Tangwulin's back. His golden dragon Moonsong battle armor was being hit. The sharp sword aura slammed against his body as if it was trying to penetrate his battle armor. However, the golden dragon Moonsong deserved its reputation of being one of the most powerful forward battle armors on today's continent. A seven-colored radiance shimmered on the surface of the battle armor to neutralize the sword's radiance. The radiance of Yuzinglin's Star God sword is actually mixed up within the starlight. Tangwulin looked astonished once again. Shushaoan's starlight attack was troublesome enough, but the radiance of Yuzinglin's Star God sword was actually mixed up with the thousands of starlights. It would be even more difficult for him to resist. In the meantime, he was already immobilized by the attacks. Tangwulin had no choice but to spit out the dragon air from his body, while he conjured countless spirits from his golden dragon spear to form a shield above him. The golden dragon spear could not fend off Shushaoan's dazzling starlight. On the other hand, it could be used to block the radiance of the Star God sword. Meanwhile, the situation inside the array could not be seen from the outside anymore. The people outside the array watching the battle could only see the occasional flashing radiance and distorted light shadows amidst the darkness. Only Guyuna, whose spiritual cultivation base had achieved the divine consciousness, could vaguely sense the situation inside. Just like how Tangwulin was shocked, Guyuna had a surprised expression on her face similarly. She made the Shrek 6 monsters and the others fight Tangwulin to provoke him. She did not expect the combination of the Shrek 6 monsters, Araheng, and Simajichi to cause such an impact. In the fused array, they were truly capable of suppressing Tangwulin. What was the significance of suppressing Tangwulin then? It signified that the array possessed the ability to rival a god-ranked powerhouse. It was simply unbelievable. Guyuna could not help being awed by mankind's creative power that seemed inexhaustible. Obviously, they were at the pinnacle of this world, yet they were still capable of advancing further. It was related to the evolution of the life core and the entire plane which resulted in the loosening of the planar stress. Henceforth, the Shrek 6 monsters and the others were capable of seizing this fortuitous opportunity to elevate themselves to high levels. It was absolutely shocking. If they were given more time, perhaps they would be able to rival Tangwulin individually when the array was enhanced. In fact, Guyuna was rejoicing for having sent someone to set up the 10,000 beast platform and utilize its ability to control people's minds. Otherwise, what would the 10,000 beast platform be used for? If the minds of these powerhouses had not been influenced earlier, they would definitely be having a tough time now. Ding, 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 ding. A series of crisp humming sounds were heard. The golden dragon spear finally managed to block a large portion of the radiance from the Star God sword. Yet, Tangwulin felt tortured during the process. There was nothing he could do to minimize the discomfort. His body was immobilized by the dazzling starlight when he unleashed his spear's radiance. He was pausing at intervals and his actions were awkward. Even the dragon air was incapable of stopping the effect of the dazzling starlight. On the other hand, the giant dragons had made their way to surround Tangwulin. They did not get close to him but began spewing their voluminous breaths at him. A ghastly scene emerged. Although the giant dragon's breaths did not carry any attacking ability, they were jinxed. Despite Tangwulin's powerful divine consciousness which prevented him from being affected, he was at a loss whether to cry or laugh when he found out that the jinxes were coated in sugar. What did he mean? In simple terms, the little angel sitting atop the evil dragon's heads emitted golden radiances which enshrouded the cursed breaths spurted out by the evil dragons. The golden radiances turned soft and gentle when they arrived at Tangwulin's side as if they were a pure form of origin energy. Tangwulin's dragon air was extremely intelligent on its own. It would devour and absorb the origin energy to replenish itself. When a soul master's cultivation base had achieved a certain level, he or she would instinctively ensure the effort of engaging in a long battle could be sustained. Yet, the situation taking place now was a complete turn of events. The sugar coat was absorbed, but so was the curse. Tangwulin's golden dragon Moonsong battle armor reacted to the situation instantly to block off the curse, but it still affected Tangwulin's attention. Moreover, the evil dragons were in large numbers, and they casted a myriad of strange curses. Some were unknown as he did not even sense that they were curses until they produced some ghastly effects on him. For example, there was a type of curse which accelerated concentrated sleep. It was harmless on its own. However, when it was absorbed by the golden dragon moonsong, Tangwulin could not help yawning as he felt sleepy. His willpower to fight was diminished and it became troublesome. There were a large number of such curses. Tangwulin had no choice but to shift his attention to ward off these curses. His god power was gradually exhausted, akin to sinking into quicksand. It seemed as if this particular area was completely locked down. The origin energy was blocked from coming in. Tangwulin clearly remembered that he personally customized the heaven and earth lock domain for Shu Lizzie. Shu Lizzie created this domain based on his understanding of the destructive power. He utilized the destructive power as the core to enhance the battle armor's amplification effect. In a battle, it could be used to support the team and entrap the enemy. At present, the domains which he equipped for his comrades with painstaking effort were now used to attack him. It was akin to him lifting a rock just to drop it on his foot. Even though Tangwulin came here fully determined, he was at a loss whether to cry or laugh at the moment. What's going on here actually? More importantly, he was not sure what he should do now. He could not defend himself in such a passive manner anymore. The prolonged consumption would exhaust his god power eventually. On the other hand, his comrades possessed soul cores which were unaffected by heaven earthlock. If the situation dragged on, Tangwulin would be exhausted to death. He stretched out his left arm and grasped the air. A black hole appeared. It was the forbid all laws, Dragon Emperor break. This time, Tangwulin did not show mercy. He infused the god power to devour everything. Instantly, the lighting in the surroundings warped. Even though the starlights were still shooting down from the sky, their numbers had reduced significantly. The dazzling starry sky was slightly affected, while the surrounding evil dragons were sucked in during the devourment. At the same time, Tangwulin retracted the golden dragon spear in his right hand. The sea god's trident replaced the golden dragon spear. A striking, glistening golden radiance shot out. Tangwulin's eyes glowed brightly soon after. Everything in the surroundings slowed down, so did the starlights. A gush of perishing aura bloomed from Tangwulin's body soon after. Everything in the surroundings collapsed extensively, including the space which was compressed. In the next instant, the inside of the array became dark all around. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.